Welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today is, like I said, another exciting day where we're able to provide that beast mindset and informative, educational information with the solution. That's the key. You can provide information all day long, but you got to have a solution because that's what people want to know. They want to know the who, what, where, when, and the whole 9 yards. Today, we're going to tap into caregiving and the responsibilities of a caregiver, and more importantly, who the caregivers are that we bring into our lives. Because usually that happens with a member of the household. It doesn't necessarily happen in the hospital. That's probably the first stage, but the final end stage begins with a family member or outsourcing. Today's guest is all the way from Dallas, Texas. A good friend of brother Steve Jefferson, Indianapolis' own, who's now in Dallas, Texas, referred her because he knew she had a great story and it should be shared on this platform. Like to welcome to the show, all the way from Dallas, Texas, Miss Pat Bailey. Pat, how you doing?
I'm so good today, brother Andre. How are you doing?
I'm great. Anytime there's a Dallas fan on this show, Dallas Cowboys, brother Steve Jefferson, I'm all about it.
Yeah, Steve is the truth. He is the truth. That's the great connector right there.
Yeah, he gave me your information. I read the information. Before we get started, tell the viewers a little bit about you. Did you grow up in Dallas, Texas? Is that your native town?
Actually, so let me see if I can say this succinctly for the people on your show.
Okay.
I am not from Dallas. I am actually from Chicago,
Right up the street.
right up the street. My grandparents lived in Indianapolis. I
Okay.
have a brother that still lives in Indianapolis,
Okay.
by the way.
Okay.
You may know him. I mean, he's a skater. He's serious, and that's where I got the relationship with Mr. Steve Jefferson. I've been in Dallas now since '96. I come from hair care. So I was a senior level executive launching hair care brands all of my life. Was repositioned here in Dallas to take over a role managing brands that everyone knows. I.e., I started with Pink Oil Moisturizer and moved on to Comb Through and Just for Me. How about that?
Man, look, I still use those products.
And I'm happy you do because I will tell people in a heartbeat, Glister and Grease sent my son to FAMU on a full ride, my ride, that checkbook, okay?
Okay.
Um, and what happened is that in getting here to Dallas, I got a call one night. It was a state of frantic perspective, and my mom had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it became clear that we needed to establish a plan. And in this instance, I brought her down to Dallas, Texas, for me to take on that role that I was assigned as a very young child, actually. I always knew I was going to be my mom's caregiver. It set me on a journey about that. Even though I was trying 52 trips a year, I needed to take care of her. And from that moment, it then led me into becoming a caregiver coach for Bailey. How about that?
Now, let me get this straight. Your mom was in Indianapolis when this diagnosis took place. Did I get that right, or was she in Chicago?
No, mom was in Chicago,
Okay.
and
I guess the
I
weather
was working.
conditions would be better for her in Dallas than Chicago anyway, especially when you're dealing with any type of life-threatening health conditions. Environmental conditions could could or may play a key in longevity to some degree. Would you agree?
I will agree that environment is important in the lane of Alzheimer's. There were safety conditions that we were addressing as a family, but she was not alone in Chicago, and that helped as well. Really and truly, it was the role of caregiving and understanding it from the space of Alzheimer's brings forth a lot of issues on how you're going to navigate the journey. The average age of a person after diagnosis and living can extend anywhere from 7 to 15 years, depending upon the level of care that they had. In the case of mom, it was 7. The issue of her coming here was I just am that anal middle child, and I wouldn't needed to take on the responsibility that was given me. And in this instance, we were able to chronicle the process. Or how do you care for an adult with a debilitating disease and then maintain your life as well? And that those monies that are needed, in this case for mom, it was about $100,000 out of my personal pocket to care for her over the 7 years.
That includes
And families
medical.
are
Does that include medical and then the additional budget going into your house? Correct.
the $100,000 that was out of pocket was specific for her, associated with assisted living facilities,
Okay.
associated with caregiver nurses as well,
Hmm.
associated with her medication. The medication at that time was not covered by Medicare, by the way. Her actual Alzheimer's drug was $150 a month,
Let me go
one
back a
pill.
minute. Let me go back a minute. Let's educate or let's educate people a little bit.
Mhm.
You were in the beauty industry, so you had no former training with dealing with Alzheimer's, correct? Second,
That's right. Mhm.
second, the information probably during that time was sketchy. I would assume we've advanced a lot since then. So now that limited you as well with providing adequate care once your mother comes into your presence from the assistant to your house. But let's go back a little bit further so people can understand when was the signs of your mother's condition and starting to take place, and when did those stages worsen, and what were those stages that your family members as well as yourself started to notice with your mom? And I'm saying this so other people can at least get a blueprint on diagnosing, because self-care is first understanding the signs that may or may not be there before going to the doctor.
So, in answering your question, where were there signs? Yes. Did we know that they were being signs of Alzheimer's? No.
No.
Was information sketchy? Yes. Is information sketchy now? No. The information is out there, but most people don't know that they're looking at Alzheimer's and or dementia. Number one, they don't know what is Alzheimer's. They don't know that it is a cognitive deficiency, a cognitive decline, and usually executive function comes first. So that's number one. Number two, they don't know that it is actually under the umbrella of dementia, meaning that Alzheimer's is one form of dementia. The other forms of dementia can be vascular, Lewy bodies. People heard a lot about Lewy bodies more recently in the last 3 to 4 years because of Robin Williams.
What
And the
exactly
other
is
side,
that? What exactly
and
is
what
that?
that means is that there are different types of dementia that presents itself differently. So when you're looking at somebody with Alzheimer's in particular, which is approximately anywhere from 60 to 80% of all dementias, by the way, and I want to note for your audience is also two-thirds women, just out of clarity. Executive functioning goes first. When my mother, who was a bank teller, could not address math and that she was in her own rights a mathematician, that is under the lane of executive functioning. There was a problem. We did not identify it though as Alzheimer's. And you're right, that was the earlier forms of Alzheimer's in our community. We're going back to the 90s
Hmm.
in terms of when she was diagnosed. And you're absolutely correct. There was no blueprint. As I'm that avid reader, I'm in hair care, but I'm actually launching brands. I'm capable of talking to physicians and going into libraries to understand the condition itself. But when you start talking about how to care for the person with the disease, that's a different construct of a person having the disease and then understanding there is no cure today for Alzheimer's,
That's
period.
that's really sad. So
Yes.
the ability to function at work begins to our normal day things usually is the first sign. You mentioned something about
It
Robin
is.
Williams. What did he have, and what were those signs? Because I was under the impression that it was a lot. That he had more of a depressional state, but you mentioned a particular illness that he had. Can you explain what that is?
Well, I won't. I'll stay in my caregiver coach lane and not the physician lane. But what I will say is, Lewy bodies,
Right.
as with a lot of dementias, which includes Alzheimer's, can have a person have what looks to be a personality disorder. They're not the same. They're not the same. It could be they're depressed, the crying, the moodiness, the isolation meaning that they no longer want to do what they once did, um, the outburst, the not friendliness, the typically with Alzheimer's is the lane of repeating themselves over and over again. And what becomes interesting about it is in that we don't know that it's presenting itself. We actually then don't know how to talk to our loved one, and we don't know, which is the most frightening aspect about it, how to present it to their physician so that they can get care. So as we do this wonderful conversation today, we need to leave the audience with steps they can take because there's probability with 1 in 2 Black families impacted by Alzheimer's disease. There are several members in your audience that are seeing Alzheimer's in and around their life with their loved ones, and that Alzheimer's is presenting itself as early as 50 years of age now.
I'm saying it
And they
now,
don't know what to do.
currently, yeah. And I didn't understand it at first, but I saw the
Mhm.
mood swings. I saw the repeated um, 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 behavior patterns, um, the going back to different states of um, earlier development, going back to early moments of a person's life, but can't understand what's going on today. And it was very hard for me because I didn't want to accept what I was seeing from a family, coming from my family member, which was my dad. And I was like, what just excuse my French, what the fuck just happened, dude? Like less than a couple of years ago, you're driving down, 38th Street with music going and we're hanging out, and all of a sudden the whole world has changed. But I wasn't, let me put it like this. I knew about it, but I was stubborn to accept it, if that makes any sense, because it happened too close to home. And when it happens too close to home, it's a complete mental minds change for not only like you as a caregiver, but a family member themselves that hate to see that this is happening and there is no cure for it. You just have to watch it play out.
You know what's interesting? I'm able to audible often. I am an ordained minister. I am a certified dementia practitioner and a certified belief therapist. This journey of my mom having Alzheimer's allowed me to actually develop my purpose in my life. I know this is where I live. But the thing that I can say to people, you are either going to be a caregiver or you're going to be cared for. And I find it ironic that we're having this discussion on Mother's Day weekend, just out of clarity, right?
Yeah.
Um, the lane of what we call deniability is extremely important in this process. We have something that we teach from called the caregiver wheel, which we actually addresses the deniability. Then you go through discovery, and
Right.
then you go to management.
Right.
Because if it's reasonable for us to deny it, what I just really want people to do and accept is you know it's coming. That's the reality. That allows us to be predictive. And that's what I'm more interested in everybody beginning to wrap their arms around so they can actually look for it. They need to be predictive for any and everybody over the age of 50. We need to watch ourselves. We need to address our memory gaps ourselves, but we need to know what to do when we see it. Who do I talk to? How can I get a list of understanding of what may be happening? Because Alzheimer's presents itself about 10 to 20 years is actually prevalent. Let me say that differently. It's prevalent 10 to 20 years before you ever see it, before it presents itself.
How's
Okay.
that? How's
And
that?
And so what happens is that you're living with it. And let me give you a really cool example of that. And I'm going to go to the Black community specifically.
Okay.
We know the rampant diabetes, uncontrolled hypertension. There are vascular disorders associated with heart disease, sleep disorders, racial discrimination, stress, environmental conditions, genetics, menopause. All of these lanes lead to dementia, and we don't know that. So if we own that, it then says, let me take the that construct and put it into buckets, manageable buckets, right? I need to control my numbers. I need to have good cholesterol numbers. I need to have my diabetes under control, my A1C numbers correct. I need to have my hypertension numbers correct so I can take care of the medical, right? I need to deal with, am I sleeping? If I'm doing the sleep of 4 to 5 hours a night, your brain is not cooling down. What does that mean? That means your brain is not able to cool down to take care of itself because you're not taking care of yourself. So we understand the brain is responsible for the heart beating, the brain is responsible for all the functions in our body. We then begin to actually address the subject of brain health. Environmental, where we live and how we eat. All these things matter. So, really and truly, I live today. I like to frame it from the standpoint of my pasture as a pastor is caregiving Alzheimer's and aging, but my actual sheep is caregivers because we have the ability and understanding this to be better prepared and preparation, excuse me, is not difficult to address. It's common sense. It's common sense, Andre. If we could all do some basic fundamental things, which is be prepared to be cared for, that's going to help us a lot.
When you
How
talk
many
about
people?
when you talk
Hmm.
about, let's go back a minute. What were the things that you now look back? You lost your mother. I'm deeply sorry for that. Um, but you look back now. What resources? What resources do you felt should have been in place to maybe allow a couple more days, a couple more months, and sharpen your skills as a caregiver? Because you touched on something. You're either going to be one or the other. You're going to give, or you're going to be that individual that needs it.
I can honestly say that at the time in which we integrated into pathway of my mom's care and well-being, there was no gap of any life expectancy for her. We got in early. We really and truly did. I'm very, very proud of my siblings and the call that they had to me because I'm down in Dallas by myself. I've moved now. I'm here a year, and they're saying there's something wrong with mom. And my mom and I were actually co-owners of a little brownstone in Chicago. So our connective tissue over the years was every day and all day. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big change for her, my moving. But my family members were there in the building as well. That's what you do with family buildings in real estate. Nothing changed about her life expectancy. What did I learn along the way, though? What I learned along the way that was very powerful that everyone needs to understand is I wouldn't have been able to take care of my mom if I didn't have a power of attorney. And most people don't even know what that means relative to another human being.
What does
And
that
most
mean
people,
so they can understand what a power of attorney is?
so you have the ability while living and while cognitive, meaning you are still functioning, to give another individual the power of attorney to represent you in the area of life, medical as well as financial. So right now, I'm 70. So my son actually has power of attorney in every one of those lanes. I was able to secure that for my mom. And let me tell you the importance of that because now of course, I'm in Texas and I'm bringing her down. I now need to talk to physicians that don't know her. She was at a major facility in Chicago that knew her all of her life. Now I've got a new physician. If I didn't have that power of attorney, I cannot advocate for her. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I cannot get control of her finances. Now here it is. she was a bank teller, she can no longer balance her checkbook. I've got to take over her finances as well. Social Security Administration is not going to talk to me if there's no power of attorney. If you don't have that document in place, you have to then move to lanes of a conservatorship where you've got to go to the court. You've got to petition for the rights to care
And
for
that
that individual.
costs money and time.
Yes,
Months,
yes,
years.
yes. And you don't have that time because in the interim, they're walking around. That particular individual with Alzheimer's is walking around still in the early phases, excuse me, early stages, as if there's nothing wrong with them. They're going to be combative. They're going to disagree with you. You're not going to be able to get the keys away from daddy. You're not going to be able to stop mom from using those credit cards when scammers call her. You have no control. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. But
So,
doesn't it
what it
also
taught
give you
me,
control over life and death too, if it gets to
it,
that point? Correct.
it really does. So, DNR and DR, do not resuscitate, do resuscitate. You're able to deal with is do I need to address the will? Maybe they do have a will in place, maybe they don't. I will tell everybody, everyone needs to have a will in place with a power of attorney document, along with a TOD. What is a TOD? Transfer on death deed. Most families today at that age group, they have a home. Well, where's that home going to go? You want to have a transfer on death deed in consort with a will. These are the things that we're now able to do to help everyone be prepared because it's coming at a rate of almost every 60 seconds. There is someone being diagnosed now with Alzheimer's. And the fact is, one in two Black families, and we have discourse in the lane of trust.
Why do you? Yeah,
Who,
yeah. Oh, yeah. You talking about the crab in the bucket syndrome. I always, I
you
always,
got it.
I always tell people when death knocks at the door, everybody comes that you never even heard about, trying to get what's theirs, which is really nothing in the end game. Where were you at 30, 40 years ago? They all show up at the table. Let's go back a little bit. And I know you may not have the numbers, but you stressed on something when you said, let's talk about minorities, people of color. But are there statistics to show that there is a difference between the numbers between uh, people of color and other ethnic groups and our white counterparts? Because let's get real. Health management touches those in despair, those that don't have the resources, those that don't have the money, and that can be that's with any color or any race of people. So when you said the people of color, are we the highest number on that totem pole with the symptoms versus the other counterparts?
So, answer to your question, there's 6.7 million people now in the U.S. with Alzheimer's. They predict that within the next 30 years, that number will jump to 18 million. Number two, African Americans, Blacks, African Americans are 2 times more likely to get Alzheimer's to the non-Hispanic whites. Hispanics being 1.5 times. So it's impacting people of color more than it's impacting our white counterparts. I actually can indicate for you that I on the other side of my business, I had the responsibility of being the marketing agency for the University of North Texas Health Science Center at Fort Worth and their health and aging brain study, health disparities, that is designed to actually get at the answer on why is Alzheimer's impacting people of color so aggressively. Because we don't know why. We don't know why Alzheimer's is impacting any particular group. What we most assuredly do not know why is impacting people of color. In this particular study, the Health and Aging Brain Study, Health Disparities, is designed to actually get at that answer. So we are a target based upon a lot of probably varied reasons. The reason that I'm going to lean into the most is this: where we may have that primary care physician in our life, some do, some don't. You called it. You said deniability. Most families, when they see the actual presence of Alzheimer's, they always end up arguing with the person that has the disease
Yeah.
instead of saying, They're different. Why are they different? What can I do addressing this difference? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If the potato salad doesn't taste the same, that's a problem. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
If they're getting lost, if they can know, if they're repeating themselves, we fight back as a people against our loved one. And by the way, that's really systemic across all nationalities because I have the I'm sorry, I have the pleasure of talking to a varied group of individuals. Everybody's in the lane of deniability, but when you look at our health risks because of our uncontrolled diabetes, our uncontrolled hypertension, there is sensitivity toward that being a problem for us.
And
We have got to become healthy.
and you mentioned something else, and I saw this as well. A lot of us get comfortable and we don't really stop learning. Because I'm
Mm.
not a doctor, but when you're talking about neural impulses in the brain firing off neurons to help heal and repair cells with proper diet and nutrition, the brain, like you said, controls all that. So I see when I'm looking at the people that have this, for some reason or another, their motor skills are somewhat good. They're able to move around, but you hardly ever see the individuals working with their firing off their brain, with having them read, going back to understanding key words and functions and so forth with the brain, actually making the brain become useful as opposed to letting it just sit there and eventually, when the brain's not utilized, what's one plus one? Two, what's five plus five? 10. If you're not firing off those neurons, they basically become none and void. Wouldn't you agree?
Most assuredly, one of the things that is recommended as part of the lane of prevention, just out of what you just said is good gosh darn sense, is that why aren't you exercising your brain? And you exercise your brain really in multiple ways, but two ways in particular that's easy for everybody is being physical. Do not become sedentary.
Hmm.
Do not look at that retirement as an opportunity for you to go home and sit down on the couch.
A lot of
That's
us
not
do
what should
that.
be
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, I see that.
They do that
Yeah.
all the time. You need to, if you are not perspiring, you are not executing good blood flow in your body. So you need to move. That's one. But as you mentioned, in terms of um, skills that actually impact cognition, memory games, Sudoku, playing chess, playing checkers, playing spades, anything that gets you to use the functions of counting and memorization
Right.
allows you to continue to create in the lane of neuron development. That's exactly what's going to happen. But that starts before you get to 65. That actually starts when you are in your 40s and your 50s, because interestingly enough, it's right around that age we begin to think about what retirement is. But what you need to do is you need to think about not necessarily the lane of retirement. You really need to think about that's an opportunity for you to actually have improved brain health. Does that make
Oh
sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But trust me, I get it. I'm always firing this brain like boom, 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 because I know that controls every aspect of what I do every day. You have to
Yes.
fire those neurons. You have to. I tell people you have to challenge your brain. Keep that beast mindset. Don't, because you're not selling cars no more. Find something else to do. Always find something to be creative to keep you young. And if you stay, I tell people like this: age is a mindset.
Mm.
Illness is a mindset by you not being able to do what you need to do to take care of your health and your well-being, and it starts right here with your mind. Not saying that death isn't for everybody, because it is, but you can prolong a lot of stuff just by doing, like you said, simple things. Good health, make sure your environment is good, and training your brain to be functional instead of just sitting there.
Yes.
um
You know what? You have a question. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
how is this really, and first of all, thank you for what you're doing to bring awareness to this topic, especially not only for our people but people in general, because this is hitting everybody. It's not a black or white thing. It's just a matter of who's going to get it and what are you prepared to do to either be the caregiver or the person that has it. Thank you for coming on and sharing that. But how has this changed your whole life? Because being a caregiver, that's 24/7. Your social life is on pause. Everything you do is on hold right now, and there's no time limit because you don't know how long it's going to be on hold. Even if it's on hold for 24 hours, it's changed your life to some degree.
So I need to say thank you to you. It's really powerful that you're giving your platform an opportunity to have this particular type of discussion. It's also powerful to note that the average caregiver spends anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week outside of their regular everyday to care for another human being. It is extremely stressful, it's extremely difficult. It is a little bit different. It's not the same as caring for a child. A child is structured to begin to listen to you at certain phases of their development. The adult person knows they should not have to give you that power. They are not trained to allow you to take care of them in that type of construct. So it's complicated. So when you look at how it has changed my life, my whole life now is caregiving Alzheimer's and aging, both in terms of the consulting side with the university, but even more importantly, with my business Finding New Tomorrows, where I'm caregiver coach. In this instance, I actually coach corporations and ministries, corporations for their employees, and ministries for the people in the pews. I counsel family members. The whole goal and objective is in providing the respite care that people need to be able to take a break as a caregiver. That's what we're foundationally about. But the training and the how to is everything. It is my I am following what God placed on me that if you can be a part of what became one of the largest segments ever in the consumer packaged goods industry as it relates to Black hair care, I need you to help my families understand how to care for each other because they no longer know how. They're in denial about it. And you need to raise the banner. And so with this, I June 15th, my book comes out, Andre. I'm so excited.
Oh, tell me about the book real quick. What's the book called? And
It's a generational caregiver guide.
okay,
Does it not make sense? It's a generational caregiver guide. It's actually a hope filled Alzheimer's and aging journey for families. And we literally get into praying for you, telling the personal story, my story and other caregiver stories that I've been exposed to,
hmm,
and then giving you solutions. How about that?
yeah.
That's June 15th. People will be able to find that on our findingnewtomorrows.com platform. But the whole objective is to get people trained on how to care for your loved ones because we don't know how.
When you before we wrap up, what are three? You wrote this book, this guide. What are three important things in this book that people really need to come to grips with that they normally would not even think it is a important issue dealing with a loved one?
The number one issue I really want people when they get access to this book to understand what they need to do for themselves to care for another human being and to care for themselves at the same time. People are now just using the word self care in an autocratic manner. You don't know what self care is if you don't know what it takes for you to be even happy. If you don't know what your own joy is. So, how is it that you've not crafted a plan in place for yourself to be cared for? And you're about to end up with the responsibility of caring for another human being. I need everybody to come to grips with our reality of being a caregiver just by birth. It's going to happen to you. It happened to you as you saw it with your dad. And your heart cried out when you saw what he was doing. So if we go ahead and accept our role, it's my goal with this book is to help everybody see that they're not alone, that this is a natural process. As God is caring for you right now, that you are to then care for someone else, and that someone else is also you, then I would have done my job. And then all I got to do now is tell you legally, financially, daily living aids, and address the mindset, what you need to prepare for, and how you need to approach it. And then we're all good. We're all on the same page at the same time, helping all of our families learn how to age well together. I would have done my job.
I have to give shouts out to my stepmom, who's actually the the care barrier with my dad. I see what she goes through, and my heart goes out to her. I know my father. I see how he is now. It's almost like like you said, reverse engineering. You know, he's not a child anymore, even though he may do that, but he still has that. You know, like you said, I'm not relinquishing because I don't know that there's something wrong with me. How can the viewers once again reach out and get this book, and how can they reach out to you personally if they want to get more information and more inspirational stories, and more importantly, even if they just have a question with dealing with it? Because a lot of times we, as what I consider self-care and self-health, is we as a people need to have a close connection with the medical people, our doctors, and a even more closer connection with our families. It don't have to be the whole crab in the bucket family, but we need to select certain people that we know that's going to be there when we need them.
Yeah, I love how you said that. So a couple things. There is someone in our life that can actually advocate for us individually, regardless of us having a debilitating disease. And then we are each one of the individuals that may very well have to care for another person. So I teach you about two tight Teddy, too busy Betty and Bob, shame Sally, and resentful Ronnie, which may be the representation of your siblings. I want you to become comfortable with the people that are in and around your life that can help, and those that are probably not going to help. And that if you do need their help, what are some of the tips and tools to motivate them to do different? But in reference to reaching out to me, I love talking to my caregivers. I really and truly do. And I love those individuals who also want to prepare for caregiving. So they can reach me at at care-givercoach.com. You can also find me on Instagram at caregiver coach Pat Bailey. Um, there you can DM me. I'm available for talks. I'm available for training. I'm available to provide programs for corporations. We've done a lot of that, by the way, with employee resource groups lately. And you can also look for credible information at our website at findingnewtomorrows.com. I'm not going anywhere. And I know you're going to put this out on your feed as well.
Oh yeah.
But it's been a great joy to have this discussion with you today.
Let me ask one more question before we end. You mentioned corporate. What is corporate role now? What is their role as it comes to dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's? Because is it because the fact that they have to worry about the retirement age factor and out of pocket expense? Are they trying to address it before? Are they working with doctors, a, a independent medical staff, I guess, to say when do we need to address this? Because you're right, and it's something to think about. When you get 65 years old, those companies either going to have to pay a lot more out of pocket because of precondition signs that may not have been recognized. What's the paradox here with with the corporations in this?
So to give a perspective on why the corporate approach, I was a corporate citizen. Um, my employers actually at the time, my bosses, and mind you, I was a senior level leader. They didn't know I was caring for a mother with Alzheimer's. By the way, that's constant. Most of us do not talk and tell. We just go in and handle our business. I'm gonna take care of my mom. So I may have been calling on the WalMarts and Walgreens of the world, positioning these brands. I didn't really openly share. I was just trying to handle my business as a whole. The gap in that was at the time in which I got exposed to what's called the EAP programs, which are programs designed for employees of resources that's available. There weren't programs there that were for me, meaning that as a caregiver, how was I going to find financial resources? How was I going to find programs that were going to help assist me? It is in that lane that I now have reached out, and I had actually had several different talks via Zoom, in person, with corporate organized events using the employee resource group lane. Because even though these diseases may be impacting them medically in terms of how they are themselves a producer in the lane of insurance, the biggest issue is you've got a workforce that is using PTO and calling in sick that may not be transparent on what's going on because they themselves may not know what's going on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They just know that their mom and their dad has an issue. And not everybody is facing that, caring for their parent or loved one from Alzheimer's. It includes that they may very well have had a stroke. They could be a variety of different reasons. So, in going into this lane now with corporations, is to get them to take a census. Because what we found in having these talks through the ERG groups, you remember I said that 1 in 2 Black families are impacted by Alzheimer's disease?
Yeah.
You know what's ironic? I did several events recently. I actually was in the pulpit for Resurrection Sunday at a mega church here in Dallas. I asked everybody in the audience to stand who was impacted by Alzheimer's and or caregiver. 50% stand. That's 1 in 2 in my audience. I stood and did an event with a gospel concert with Yolanda Adams, Marvin Sapp. I'm on stage. I do the same thing. I ask anybody and everybody's been impacted by Alzheimer's and dementia and a caregiver, please stand so that we can clap for them. We can give them some applause and give them their flowers, right? 1 and 2 stood out. When we do these plans with these ERG groups, again, 1 and 2 people. What does that mean? Corporations are not aware of it. And the one that got me the most, I was at a major health organization meeting with their executive staff. They were onboarding me to help them in the doctor's offices address, as they talk to patients and their patient load, anything relative to caregiving because they can assume over the age of 65 there may be some signs of dementia or whatever, right? Do you know what happened at the table? 70% of the people of the executive staff said and started crying while I'm there, admitting that they were caregivers and had not told anyone. This is past suffering in silence right now.
Yeah.
This lane of denial is bigger than I ever thought it was. But it shouldn't be because you are going to be a caregiver. That's the model. God made it that way. We need to lean into it, look left, look right, look through our families, look for differences, and also begin to talk to loved ones about how are you doing? Are you caring for anybody? We should make it a topic of a conversation for every picnic we're going to have, for every family union that's coming up, for every Mother's Day brunch that's going to have right now, because they're going to leave that brunch and go back to a possible caregiver role. And you never know, but you should predict it. And that's what we should do.
Where can victims get what is the, what is the what are some of the resources that people can go to get help, like transportation for loved ones, food assistance? They have to work. Somebody to come in and check on the loved ones that may need it. Like, what are three of the main resources that people should start with for help outside of their family care provider?
So this is what I heard. I have 3 lanes typically that I send people through. I'm going to take you through one that's going to be the awareness of the legal lane, the financial lane, and then the daily resources. Okay. Under the daily resources, which is what you're framing right now, through Health and Human Services, typically by state, aging is local. Everybody needs to understand that the way the monies flow, Medicaid monies come back down to the state after taxes, right? So Health and Human Services at the federal level has an arm also at the local level. It is there on those Health and Human Services departments' websites that you're able to look and see caregiver resources. Now we do have, if they email me at pat@care-givercoach.com, we have a curated list by state of what resources are available.
That's
And
great.
we will help you get to those. So in that link, you're going to be able to understand where do I go to possibly be funded, actually get underwriting monies to be a caregiver. Some states are offering that right now. That's really powerful to know and understand. In this instance, you can have someone within your family be paid as a caregiver or yourself be paid as a caregiver. Some funds are run out over a period of time that are grant related, some are not. So we help you understand that. We link you through an understanding about Medicaid. When you look at the average amount of money someone receives for their Social Security and now they have a debilitating disease, you need to get them qualified for Medicaid. We send you to the sites to understand how to do that. So you were right in the beginning. You're about to go back to school. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go back to school because most of us, even that's part of this call today, they have no idea that in the case I'm 70, I have an understanding of Medicare because now I've had to do it. I really wish I spent more time at 55 knowing the way Medicare really works. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what to sign up for. Do I sign up for advantage type plans or do I sign up for the traditional? All of these things we try to get you informed and educated. Now, I am going to do, Andre, and I would like to stay in contact with you about this, an online session breaking these three lanes down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would love that to be a part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be powerful to then also hear from other professionals. I also am very, very conscious of people understanding their wealth model when I talk about transfer on death deed. So you're able to protect and incubate your home. So those monies will be available for when you need to use it. The fact that you need to have a will. I am very encouraged to take our families through all of that for the individuals as a whole that's over the age of 50, but also so they can prepare their parents. Because unfortunately you can't advocate otherwise. So we need to go to class, right?
Yeah. Most
We need to go through this defining new tomorrow's university.
yeah.
That's what we need to do on caregiving, and I'm happy to do it. And I'm so happy you're bringing this to your audience today. Very, very much so.
Thank you so much. Make sure you guys reach out to Miss Bailey, and if you're suffering in silence, you don't. There's no need to suffer anymore. This is a situation that's going to affect everyone, not just one out of a million, but it's going to affect everyone. The thing is, do you have the resources to deal with it, to keep your mental beast mindset going strong? So if you are a caregiver, you can be of an impact versus a burden to the individuals that you come in contact with. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.